Captain Elias Thorne tightened the straps on his mission harness as the boarding ramp of the Aurora's light hissed closed behind him. Beyond the viewport lay Varethus, a world of stark contrasts, where crystalline spires pierced lavender skies, and rivers of molten cobalt snaked through arid plains. The ship's engines dwindled to a hum, then fell silent, replaced by an eerie stillness that made Elias's pulse thrum in his ears. As the airlock door slid open, a gust of warm, metallic-scented breeze washed over him. He stepped onto the obsidian landing platform, its surface so polished it mirrored the twin suns overhead. Crowds of Varethian citizens, tall, lithe beings, with opalescent skin and diaphanous robes, parted silently, revealing three figures at the center, the royal sisters. Arya stood tallest, her violet-hued skin streaked with silver filigree that glinted in the sunlight. Her posture was regal, arms crossed beneath voluminous sleeves. Beside her, Beleth's lean frame and piercing emerald eyes marked her as both scholar and swordswoman. The faint glow of a sheath at her hip hinted at latent power. At the far side, Cressida's presence was the most enigmatic, her body encased in a living bioluminescent suit that pulsed rhythmically, casting dancing reflections on the platform. Before Elias could offer his formal greeting, a ripple of laughter unfurled from the sisters. "Look at him, Beleth," Arya drawled, voice cool as interstellar space. "Barely taller than my hand." Beleth's lips curled into a mocking smile. "Did Earth send its children to us for protection, or for amusement?" Cressida drifted forward, each step leaving a faint trail of iridescence. Her tone was teasing but edged with disdain. "Tell me, human, do your muscles ache yet? Or did you pack only your diplomatic manners?" Elias forced a calm expression. He took a deliberate bow. "I am honored to stand before the royal family of Varethus. I come in peace on behalf of Earth's United Council." His words rang steady, but inside his heart pounded. Arya's silvery eyebrows arched. Earth's United Council? Such a quaint title for a planet so primitive. A murmur coursed through the assembled crowd of Varethians, but Elias caught the glint of unease in the eyes of the waiting palace guards. They did not laugh. Were they questioning their own princess's arrogance, or simply wary of his reaction? He straightened and met each sister's gaze in turn. "I understand Varethus has thrived through wisdom and strength for millennia. I only hope to learn and share in the bonds of friendship." For a heartbeat, silence fell. The sisters exchanged looks, amusement, skepticism, and something unreadable in Cressida's biosuit. Then Arya let out a soft hum, dismissive. "We shall see how long your resolve holds, human." A distant gong echoed through the courtyard, an invitation to the grand hall. Elias drew a slow breath and followed the aura of lavender dust kicked up by the sisters' departure, every sense alert. Behind him, the Aurora's lights engines winked out of sight, swallowed by the platform's shadows. Ahead lay uncharted trials, and with them the true test of his mission, to earn respect in a world that seemed determined to mock him. The dawn suns of Varethus rose in tandem, casting long lavender shadows through the palace corridors. Elias Thorne, stiff from yesterday's journey, was roused before either sun crested the eastern towers. A pair of silent palace attendants escorted him through mirrored halls etched with ancestral glories. At the end, he found the three sisters waiting. Arya's arms were crossed, her expression unreadable. Beleth's gaze was sharp, sizing him up like prey. Cressida's bioluminescent suit flickered impatiently. Without a word, Arya swept a hand toward the great obsidian spire visible through the crystalline windows. "This morning's task," Arya announced, voice as cold as starlight, "is to climb the spire's sheer face, reach the summit before the suns touch their zenith." Elias exhaled slowly. He had trained in zero-G EVA suits and scaled fractal rock formations on Mars, but none so slick and steep as this glass-like column. He nodded. "Understood." Moments later, Elias stood at the spire's base. The air was thin, and the wind stabbed at him with icy resolve. High above, the summit shimmered like a distant promise. Using magnetized boots and hand grips that jutted only sporadically, he began his ascent. Below, the sisters summoned hover seats. They drifted alongside him, their laughter carrying on the wind. "Are your earth-made bones up to the task?" Beleth taunted. "Or will gravity reclaim you before halfway? Keep talking," Elias muttered under his breath. "It'll distract you when I reach the top." Halfway up, his right boot slipped on a polished filament. For a heart-stopping second, he dangled from one gloved hand, the forge-hot wind tugging at his harness. Above, Cressida's voice rang out, amused. A human fall would be quite the spectacle. But Elias gritted his teeth, found a new grip, and hauled himself upright. The suns inched toward zenith. Finally, panting and sweat-slicked, he pulled himself over the summit's lip as the twin orbs aligned. The horns of a distant mountain framed him, and silence fell. Arya's voice crackled through his calm. "Well done, for one so fragile." There was no warmth in her words, but at least there was acknowledgement. That afternoon, Elias was ushered into the Hall of Whispers, a vaulted chamber where chamber walls hummed with echoes of ancient voices. At the center stood 3 pedestals, each bearing a crystalline cube inscribed with glyphs older than recorded memory. Beleth's challenge was intellectual: decipher the glyphs and unlock the cubes before sunset. Each cube contained a fragment of the Codex of the Three Keys, the legendary treaty that bound Varethus's ruling triad. Elias approached the first cube. Its glyphs danced before his eyes, shifting patterns of light and shadow. Using a neural interface translator and his knowledge of semiotic algorithms, he identified repeating motifs, symbols for unity, courage, and harmony. With a tap, the cube clicked open, revealing a glowing shard. The sisters watched as he tackled the second cube, then the third, each more complex than the last. Arya hummed in disbelief. Beleth's lips thinned. Cressida's biomechanical suit dimmed as if she were holding her breath. When the final cube snapped open at the last flicker of daylight, the Hall of Whispers fell into reverent quiet. Elias bowed his head in exhaustion. "The Codex is complete," he announced softly. Beleth stepped forward. "You have intellect, human, but tell me, how do you fare when wit alone does not suffice?" Elias met her gaze. "I welcome whatever comes next." That evening, the sisters convened in a secluded courtyard. Moonstones overhead pulsed with soft blue light. Elias joined them, bruised but unbroken. Arya studied him. "You have conquered 2 trials, but the greatest test remains. Will you stand unwavering when your spirit is truly challenged?" Beleth's smile was thin. "Perhaps tomorrow you'll learn whether your honor is as solid as your resolve." Cressida simply nodded, her suit's light pulsing in time with Elias's heartbeat. As the night winds curled around him, Elias knew that each trial stripped away the comfort of expectation and edged him closer to the sisters' respect. Whatever lay ahead, he vowed to face it with the same calm determination. For on Varethus, endurance of mind, body, and heart were the true markers of worth. A day later, under a sky streaked with copper and teal, Elias was summoned to the sunlit court, a vast amphitheater carved from pale onyx. Torches of crystallized plasma floated in spirals overhead, casting prismatic shadows across rows of silent nobles. At the foot of the dais stood 3 slender pedestals, each supporting an intricately wrought ring of living metal. King Arendor sat upon his throne of woven starlight and obsidian bone, his amber eyes gleaming. He raised a hand and the court hushed. "Captain Elias Thorne," his voice resonated like distant thunder, "you have proven your strength and your wit. Now you must prove the purity of your heart." A regal attendant stepped forward, carrying 3 rings etched with shifting glyphs. "These are the Varethian bonds of verity," the attendant intoned. "Should you utter falsehood beneath their touch, they will burn your flesh with the truth's fire. Speak only truth, and you shall pass unscathed." Elias's pulse quickened, but he squared his shoulders. He approached the pedestal and slipped each ring onto his fingers, The metal felt alive, warm, pulsing softly as if synced to his heartbeat. King Arendor waved his scepter and the attendant whispered in Elias's ear, "Ask any question the court desires. Answer with honesty, and the bonds will welcome your vow." A murmur rose among the nobles. Arya, Beleth, and Cressida watched from a raised balcony, their expressions solemn. No taunts today. First, Grand Vizier Solon stepped forward. "Do you seek power over Varethus, human?" Elias met the vizier's gaze and spoke firmly. "I seek only friendship and mutual prosperity between our worlds." The rings glowed emerald for an instant, then dimmed. Next, Lady Consul Viria asked, "Will you betray us when your superiors demand it?" "I serve the ideals of peace," Elias replied, "not the whims of conquest. Betrayal is beneath me." Again, a faint pulse of light ran through the metal, a sign of acceptance. At last, King Arendor himself rose, the hem of his cloak swirling like living night. "And do you, Elias Thorn, swear to honor Varethus with your loyalty, your courage, and your compassion, no matter the trials ahead?" Elias took a breath that seemed to echo through the silent court. He raised his head and placed his hand upon his heart. "I swear it upon my life, and upon Earth's name." The rings flared, with blinding light, then fell still. The court exhaled as one, the hush broken by a single resonant gong. King Arendor leaned forward, a rare smile touching his stern features. "The bonds accept you, human." He surveyed the crowd. "Let it be known across all realms, Captain Elias Thorn stands in truth before Varethus." Behind him a ripple of applause rose, slow at first, then swelling. Elias dared a glance upward. The three sisters remained silent, their expressions inscrutable, but in their eyes he thought he detected a flicker of something new. Respect, perhaps curiosity. As the sun dipped below the horizon, King Arendor dismissed the assembly. Elias left the sunlit court with the weight of the ring still upon his fingers, and a quiet certainty that he had crossed a threshold. The true test, he realized, was not the king's ritual, but winning the hearts of Arya, Beleth, and Cressida themselves. And that challenge lay just ahead. The morning after the bonds ritual, dawn's pale light filtered through stained glass domes into the grand conclave hall. Rows of Varethian nobles assembled, elders in iridescent robes, generals in obsidian armor, and scholars whose crystalline scrolls chimed with anticipation. At the far end, the sisters stood in regal silence behind King Arendor's dais, Arya with her silver-laced veil, Beleth with the sword of her forebears at her hip, and Cressida with her bioluminescent suit, dimmed to a subdued glow. King Arendor rose, his scepter tapping once against the marble floor. The chamber stilled. "My children," he began, voice rich with authority, "and honored guests of Varethus." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "By the ancient covenant of the triune accord, any who prove unwavering in mind, body, and spirit before my daughters shall bind themselves to our realm through marriage. This union ensures the strength and prosperity of both our worlds." A hush fell. Elias Thorn, seated among the Earth delegation, felt every eye turned toward him. His heart thundered, but he remained composed. Arya's lips parted in disbelief. "Father, you cannot invoke the triune accord for a human." Arendor held up a hand. "It is neither preference nor prejudice that guides me, but the sacred law written in the stars. Captain Elias Thorn has conquered each trial, and the covenant is absolute." Beleth's hand slid to her sword's hilt. "But he is untried, in the ways of Varethian union." "Trueship is forged in the crucible of challenge," the king countered. "Let this ceremony mark the alliance between Earth and Varethus for all generations." Cressida's bioluminescent suit pulsed, stronger, the light catching on her narrowed eyes. "Surely there must be another—" "Silence!" Arendor's command resonated through the hall. He turned to Elias. "Captain Thorn, rise." Elias stood, bowing his head. The murmurs swelled, some awed, some outraged. He met the king's gaze. "Your Majesty, I am honored beyond measure, yet—" "Yet what, human?" Arya seethed, stepping forward. "You cannot comprehend the gravity of this decree." Elias held out a hand toward her. I respect your world and your customs. If this union will bind our peoples in lasting peace, I accept the covenant." The chamber erupted in whispers and gasps. King Arendor smiled solemnly. "Then it is settled. Let preparations begin for the triune ceremony at the next convergence of suns." As the court dispersed under a haze of stunned silence, the three sisters gathered in a secluded gallery. Arya's voice was low, urgent. "You cannot marry him, Beleth, not for duty or desire." Beleth's emerald eyes flashed. "Father's word is law, we have no choice." Cressida pressed her hand to her bioluminescent chest, the light flickering anxiously. "And what of our hearts?" Beyond the gallery, Elias stood alone in the echoing hall, the enormity of his vow settling upon his shoulders. The triune accord bound him to three alien sisters, once his mockers, soon to be his brides. And in that binding lay the fate of two worlds. In the fortnight before the convergence of suns, the palace of Varethus became a crucible of preparation. Elias rose each dawn to train with the sisters, their initial tension melting into unexpected camaraderie. Arya led him through the corridors of the celestial archives, teaching him the art of astral cartography. He learned to read the dancing constellations reflected in Varethus's twin moons, tracing the sacred tapestry of worlds across the stars. With each lesson, Arya's disdain eased into encouragement, and Elias found himself marveling at her quiet devotion to knowledge. Beleth's training was fiercer. Under her watchful eye, Elias mastered the triad forms, a sequence of defensive and offensive maneuvers designed for three combatant synergy. At first, his movements were clumsy, his timing off. But Beleth's corrections were precise rather than derisive, her emerald eyes alight with pride as he anticipated her strikes and flowed with her counters. By the 10th session, they moved in near-perfect harmony, Elias's earthborn strength complementing Beleth's swift precision, both guided by her unwavering discipline. Cressida offered the most intimate lessons. She led Elias into the bioluminescent gardens beneath the palace where glowing flora responded to touch and emotion. She showed him how to attune his own biosignature to the living suit she wore, teaching him empathy through shared illumination. Under her guidance, Elias felt his heartbeat synchronize with hers as they walked among the radiant vines. Laughter bloomed between them, light and genuine, far from the cutting mockery of their first meeting. On the eve of the convergence, the three sisters and Elias stood together in the moonstone terrace, bathed in the triangulated glow of the celestial alignment. The air thrummed with anticipation as nobles and dignitaries gathered below. Arya stepped forward first, her voice steady. "Elias Thorne, you honor Varethus with your steadfast spirit. I pledge my mind and my knowledge to our union." She pressed a slender hand to his and a soft violet spark arced between them. Beleth followed, her gaze solemn but warm. "I pledge my blade and my loyalty. May our strength together protect both our worlds." Her grip was firm, and Elias felt the promise in her steady heartbeat. Finally, Cressida approached, her bioluminescent suit pulsing brighter than ever. "I pledge my heart in symbiosis with yours. Let our shared light guide us forward." When her hand touched his, the terrace glowed in ripples of azure and gold. King Arendor proclaimed the bonds sealed, his voice echoing across the gathered throng. "So long as these vows remain true, Earth and Varethus shall flourish together." As the celestial alignment reached its zenith, the sisters and their human consort stood united beneath the converging suns. In that luminous moment, mockery gave way to respect, and respect blossomed into something stronger, an alliance not forged by duty alone but by understanding, trust, and the promise of a shared future.